Let's see how we go. Hopefully you guys can see a PowerPoint.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Fred. Yep, my name's Steve, and I'm going to talk to you today for however many minutes it takes, but less than 20, about the Tableau forums. So why do we need the forums, and why would you listen to this presentation? Well, I want to introduce you to Joe. Joe has got very little time left for a deadline, and he's at a pretty critical problem. One of his calculations just won't work. We've probably already all been here. We've probably all experienced this problem. And we've probably all reached out for help to an expert and managed to solve our problem. And that's where the forums come in really handy. They give you access to a whole heap of experts to help you solve your problems. So the number one use is to get help from a whole heap of experts. There are around 400,000 active users in September 2022. And I got a few stats off Cara Brennan, who's the Tableau Forums community program manager. 400,000 active users. There were about 2 million page hits in September. And I think if I remember rightly, 2,300 questions were posed, and well over 90% of those got an answer within 24 hours. And the vast majority of people get an answer much quicker than that even. There's other reasons to use the forums, and that's, as Fred alluded to, connect with other Tableau users and user groups, but also to contribute to both product direction and to help others. And I'll cover all of these today in some detail. Hopefully there'll be a good time for some questions as well. So first up, let's talk about finding the forums, orientating, getting started, searching for answers, and how-to guides. The forums are found off the Tableau homepage. You can go to Resources, Community, and then Community Forums. Don't worry too much about remembering that. I'll put a reminder at the end of the slide. You can even just search Community Forums, Tableau Community Forums on Google. Once you've clicked through from there, you'll see this. This is the forums homepage for those that haven't seen it before. And I'm going to cover these three highlighted areas that I've got shown on the left there. So forums, ideas, and groups. But, and here's the great thing, if my presentation goes to custard without any notes, or you zone out for even 10 seconds, I just want you to remember one thing today. So you're going to remember one thing, that's that there's a getting started page, and that will tell you everything you need to know, almost everything that you've got in this presentation plus more. On that getting started page, you'll see how to create an account, navigate the forums, ask a question, submit ideas or join groups, and then at the bottom, some information about how best to search. Oh, Joe's sat there, he's in despair. Steve wants me to search the forums before I answer my question. Doesn't he know the time's ticking? I've now got 2 hours to the deadline. The last thing I want to do is try searching for hours. I just want a quick question. Don't worry, I do remember Joe's story, and there'll be times where you don't want to search and you just want to ask the question. No one is going to beat you up. But if you do have time, it's really good to search first, because there's a great chance that someone has already hit your challenge and there's already a wealth of solutions there that you could try out. So if you are searching, let's say, for example, that you want to reproduce Excel's SUMIF function, which is actually a question that comes up quite frequently with people who are new to Tableau, but very experienced with Excel. So up in the top right, you'll see that search box, and I've just typed in SUMIF, and I'm going to hit search. I get 283 responses, so hopefully I'm going to find something useful here. What the better news is that right at the top, there's 3 top results that look super relevant to me, and 2 of them look like I'm even going to get an answer. You can see that little red text, green text with the red arrow that says answered. So we're going to click into the first one of those, and we can see that someone needs some help reproducing the SUMIF function or similar to it. And we can see that Chris McClellan, one of our Tableau ambassadors based in Australia, has answered this question previously. And he's suggesting, hey, with Tableau, if you put the if inside the sum, you'll get a solution. And my screenshot's not great enough here, so you can't see all of Chris's solution, but it goes on to something like you see in that red box. If you put sum and open brackets, and then if something is true, then measure end, and what Tableau is doing is it's saying, If the thing is true, then we'll return the measure, otherwise it will be null, which won't be counted by the sum. So we only sum the things when something is true. Top tip if you didn't already know it. What if we're after something a bit more complex? So I've got a situation where I've got a 24-month moving average, and I'm showing, but I only want to show 24 months on my chart. One of the common problems you'll have there is that if you apply a normal filter, you'll find that the first 23 months don't really show the proper moving average because you've cut the previous 24 months out of the window of data. So if I want to fix that problem, I might use the search and put in the search term filter and moving average. And the great news is we've got a whole heap of results come back for this one as well. And what I have noticed is that there's two specific how-to guides. You can see those over on the left under content type. And I'm just going to click that box to say, yeah, I want those. And I'm now seeing the two how-to guides. They actually look like the same thing, but the result is returned 2. But let's click into one of those. Brilliant. This looks like it's going to help me out. So there's a couple of different steps, but the crux of the solution here is that it's telling you if you filter on a table calculation itself. So in this case, I want the order date. I'm going to do lookup min order date and with an offset of 0. So I'm just looking up the order date in the current row that I'm at, say. Then that filter will be applied after your moving average is being calculated. And that's due to the Tableau's order of operations. That way we don't filter the data before we calculate the moving average. So the forums have helped me again. If you don't like searching the forums and you use this tool called Google, I'm not sure what that is, but apparently it's quite good. You can put in exactly the same search terms, but just stick Tableau at the front, and pretty much all of the time you'll get a good hit anyway. Here we can see the third result down is that knowledge base article that we were looking at. You've just got to interpret things a little bit more here. So you can see for the top 2 posts, we can see we're in community.tableau and then question. So we can see we've got answers to questions for the top 2. And in the one I've got the red box around, we can see KB for knowledge base at the start and then articles how to. So we can interpret that as a how-to guide. If you use the forum search itself, that's all structured a little bit more nicely for you. Okay, so what if the searching doesn't give you a result, or you're like poor Joe and you need an answer now and you don't have time for searching? Well, obviously the main reason you're on the forums is to ask a question. So what you're going to do is log in, pick a topic and ask a question. What I would suggest is you register in advance because then you're all ready to log in so that you can ask a question. So you've got the login up in the top right. If you haven't registered already, clicking that link will take you to a login box where you can create an account as well. And when you do log in, if you've already got a login to, say, the customer portal, you can probably use that one and you'll find that works. If not, create yourself a login. Tableau then recommend that if you've got a question that you start by clicking on one of the topics below. So choosing a relevant topic puts your question into that topic area, if you like. For me, the easiest thing there is to pick from one of the products that's immediately below. So you can see I've put a red box around Tableau Desktop if your question was about Tableau Desktop. Further down, there's other topics like server administration, calculations, dates and times. You're very welcome to start from those, but often just a quick way in is to pick the product. Once you're through onto the topic or product page, you can see a big orange Ask a Question button. Surprise, surprise, you're going to click that. That button is also scattered around the forums. So here I'm back on the home page and I've scrolled down and I've still got the Ask a Question button. So wherever you click it from, you'll end up getting a pop-up where you can pose your question. So there's a little bit going on here. I'm going to take a bit of time to go through this for you and also cover some tips. So what you're going to put in as a main topic here, it's got Tableau Desktop. It just picked that up. I took this screenshot from my earlier one. You'll phrase up your question with 255 characters, so make that short and snappy. And then you've got a box where you can put in as much detail as you want to. And you can add screenshots in here. And then a very small little paperclip icon, which is really important because that's where you can attach files like your data or a packaged workbook, which will really help us to answer the question quickly. And if you do have some additional topics, like it's a calculation question within Tableau Desktop, you can add that additional topic of calculation. So some tips. Topics provide really useful context. So if your question's how do I pivot my data, and you already know you want to do it in Tableau Desktop, then the topic tells us you care about Tableau Desktop, so you won't get answers to do with Tableau Prep. Do provide enough detail. So you want to include the key details. A mock-up of the desired or successful result is really handy, helps us see what you're after. If you can simplify to the key issue, please do, but keep enough in there to help with your situation and your data. So as an example there, if I needed the averages for the last 3 months, and then I need to sum them up by category, then go ahead and tell us that you need it for the last 3 months, and then you need to do something else with it. If you just ask for the average over the last 3 months, we might give you a solution that you can't go on to then build in the sum up by category. Now, a brief interlude to talk about providing your data. So what you're seeing here is complete fabrication. I might submit it as a product ID, you never know. But what I'm trying to say here is at the moment, we can't drag and drop a screenshot of your Excel spreadsheet into Tableau Desktop to connect to it. So whilst attaching a screenshot lets us see your data, it doesn't let us work with your data. And having your sample data means that we don't have to guess it, so we can give you more specific help. And we don't have to re-enter it, which means quicker help. I have seen questions not get answered because there's no data there and someone's gone, oh, it's going to take me a long time to reproduce that data for the person. Seeing your workbook, so attaching your workbook means that we can see what you've tried. That's going to mean it's a much more collaborative approach to helping you solve your problem. And we can see your problem, which sounds obvious, but it means we can give quicker and more specific help rather than seeing maybe a small proportion of your problem. To attach your data and workbook, the best way is to attach a packaged workbook. So to do that, you're going to right-click your data source and extract, and then you're going to go to the File menu and Export Packaged Workbook. This is for Tableau Desktop, by the way, this particular tip. If you don't package or don't do the extract, then unfortunately we can't use it. So we'll try and open your workbook and then it'll tell us we don't have access to your SQL Server or your Amazon instance or your Excel. Now, some of you will be thinking here, and we see this regularly on the forums, hang on, my data is pretty sensitive. It's either healthcare data or it's private. You're absolutely right to not want to post that on the forum. In fact, please don't post private or sensitive data. It's no problem. We can help you anyway. The best approach is to do one of two things. So either create some sample data. So often your problem will be quite easy to reproduce using Sample Superstore, or mock up a quick Excel with a similar problem. Or you can desensitize your data, which sounds a bit ominous and, oh my God, how am I going to do that? But on the forum, if you're on the right of the Getting Started page, there's an Anonymize Your Data topic or article, and that'll take you through how to do that. There's a really handy video. Also, just a quick plug for a blog post and video that Katie Kilroy has done. That's a really nice video on just how to anonymize your data, and it takes you through the steps really nicely. So please do check that out if you need to. Hopefully by this point, you've got your question in and you're starting to get some answers. What we'd love you to do is work through and try the suggestions. I do see cases where people just say, hey, I don't think that'll work in my case. Often the reason someone's suggesting something is to learn a bit more about the problem. So do try what they suggest, or at least come back with further info or why you think there's a challenge. We'd really love you to upvote helpful suggestions. It just gives the people who are helping you a bit of a pat on the back and encouragement to keep helping. And once the problem's solved, please do select an answer as best. That means good answers are then more quickly visible in the future. You'll probably remember from one of the first slides that you could see the best answer at the top from Chris McClellan. If you mark it as best, then that percolates to the top for the next person searching. So in this example, I've picked Chris again, which is just totally random. I was looking for a nice short question. Someone's asked a question where they don't want measure values to be automatically reordered alphabetically in the data source pane. Chris and myself have given an answer, and the person asking the question here has got the option, as you'll see with the red boxes, to either upvote, reply, or select as best. What if there is no solution? Well, if you get no response at all, then the first thing I'd get you to check is, did you follow the tips above? Because if maybe you've maybe you've just posted in a hurry and you've not really specified your context, you haven't supplied any sample data. Maybe people are just struggling to work out what the problem is. So if you've got no response at all, sense check those tips. If you get a workaround or the response is really, really sorry, there is no solution in Tableau, then you could consider a product improvement idea. And you can jump through to the ideas section of the forums, and there you can either search for other people's other ideas to improve the product and upvote those, lend your weight to them, or you can record or add a new idea for improvement. Sometimes this section gets a bit of a bad rap, but we do see that Tableau do pick ideas from here and they do progress them. And I think my best advice would be, don't be disheartened. If every single Tableau user upvoted an idea, it would have millions of votes, and that would send a very strong message. One of the final reasons to use the forum is to connect with and help others. So we're going to cover a few things here: groups, answering questions yourself, and how that's gamified. So clicking through to the groups area of the forums means that you can join groups with fellow like-minded people. So that might be a particular industry area. So if you're in the finance area like me, you might join the finance user group. One that's really recommended is the Tableau newbies user groups. They're really handy. And in fact, often a user group will have a group within the forums as well, where they can post videos of their sessions or any material that come out of their sessions. And if you want to help get involved answering questions, sort of maybe you've had help in the past and you now want to pay it forward to other people, then as you scroll down the main forums page, you'll see a list of unanswered questions. And answering a question really is as simple as you can see that write and answer box there with my little picture next to it. Once you've logged in, you can write an answer, get in there and try helping people. The forums are really nicely gamified if you're into that sort of thing. So if you want to see how you're doing, track your reputation and your points, you click your profile picture and then go to My Profile. And then towards the bottom right, you can see your user stats. And we've got your reputation level and points at the top. And then you can earn all sorts of badges for helping with specific areas, showing expertise in calculations. Maybe that's your thing, or server admin. So what we're seeing on the right here is the different levels of points and reputation. I'm going to cover that on the next slide in a bit more detail. And a leaderboard or various leaderboards. So if that's your thing, and I do appreciate it's not everybody's thing, you know, comparing yourself to someone who is just a powerhouse on the forums like Jim or Diego, you know, you might not. Don't go out of it feeling disheartened. Everyone contributes in their own way. And at the end of the day, if you were to help maybe a PhD student in bioinformatics who's struggling to do some data analysis and a light bulb goes on for them and they go on to do some really killer research and find a cure for a disease, you know, how cool would that be? So everyone's contribution is valuable. But if forum leaderboards are your thing, then you can click through to various ones. You know, are you leading a topic? Are you chipping in on posts or best answers? Or in the case on this screenshot, rising stars. So people who are new to the forum, profiles created within the last 12 months, you can see how many points you've earned in the last 90 days or last year. Climbing the leaderboard and the reputation levels. So you build up points for asking questions, answering questions, marking answers as best, having your answer selected as best. And you climb up from Data Newbie all the way up to Visit Insights Pro or VIP. One of the final things I just want to cover is the culture and ethos on the forum. Most of our users are volunteers. There are some Tableau staff on there, but often they're putting their own personal time in anyway, people like Sarah Battersby. Please be respectful, patient, constructive, and positive. Some of you will have used other forums, and I know my experience has been that the Tableau forums are a particularly friendly and supportive place, and you know, it really would be great if it stays that way. Assume good faith. Unintentional mistakes can happen. They're not intended. Just post, hey, I don't think that actually solves my problem. And people will go, oh, yes, sorry, I misunderstood. I know I've done that. Still make mistakes. You can mention people and pull them into posts using the @ but please use that appropriately. I know that for myself, I'd love it if Jim Derner or Ken Flalage would answer all of my questions. But if I were in their shoes and I was getting at it in every single question, I'd probably get pretty tired of it. There is a guide in the forum that lets you know when to use that functionality and when to maybe ease off. And if you're answering questions, bear in mind that the best to you may not equal the best to the poster. So that's an opportunity to learn. There's more than one way to achieve things in Tableau usually. So just because someone thinks your answer isn't best doesn't mean it isn't good. Just might mean that they see something in a different answer. And I had that moment. I posted a really complex answer, thought I'd done the absolute business with a question, and then an hour later someone posted a really simple solution with sets, and I couldn't believe it. Great opportunity to learn, and that's what I love about the forums. So in summary, you can find the forums from the Tableau website. Go to resources, community forums. Please do register ahead, because then you'll be ready to ask questions. If there's one thing you remember, it's the getting started page. Remember to include enough detail when asking questions, and a sample or desensitized packaged workbook really helps. Try people's suggestions, upvote and select as best, and get involved. I promise you'll learn heaps. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope you found this presentation as useful as Joe would have found it if he'd listened to it. And I'm more than happy to answer questions.